Hey everybody, this is Becky with Saline County Library. We're here with Bobby Teague that has many years of martial arts experience and did a wonderful job last program, and he's going to do some follow-up. And if you have any questions, please comment. We're happy to answer any questions. And if you would please comment, of course, but I guess I'm going to go ahead. We're going to give it just a minute, and I'm going to turn it over to Bobby. And thank you, Bobby, for doing this again.
Very, very well.
Okay. All right. Okay, Bobby, go ahead, and we are live, so go ahead and tell us what you got.
All right. Well, we're going to follow up on the last lesson that we did, and really the most important thing that I can emphasize to you is that you have to have situational awareness.
Hey, everybody. This is Becky with
anyways, situational awareness. What am I hearing? Okay.
I'm sorry. That was me. Go ahead.
I'm hearing you, and I'm thinking you're asking a question, but situational awareness, simply put, is to be aware of what's going on around you. A lot of the things that happen that cause you to become a victim of a crime is not paying attention to your surroundings. For instance, and we spoke about it last time, if you walk out of a store and you've got your cell phone in your hand and you're looking at your cell phone and you're texting somebody, then you're not going to be aware that somebody is watching, that they are planning to make you a victim. They're looking for a soft target. But if you walk out, the first thing you do is you scan the parking lot and look for anything that looks suspicious. God gave us a Holy Spirit to live inside of us to give us warnings, and some people call it a sixth sense or just a gut feeling. You got to trust your gut. If you feel something is out of place, then you need to realize something is probably out of place, and you should do something. If you don't know anything, you won't do anything. If you know something, you'll do something. First things first is be aware of your surroundings. Look really, really good. Make sure that if something is out of place, if you see somebody by your car, someone following you through the store. I've shared it in the last episode that my daughter was at Target on Alcoa Road, and a man was following her through the store and even stopped and talked to her momentarily. She went to a department where he would not have any reason to be there, in the women's department, and he followed her all the way to the checkout. And as she was getting ready to leave that store, it was raining, she pulled her hoodie up over her head, and before she walked out the door, she caught him in her peripheral vision, and she knew something wasn't right. And she just flat said, I'm not going out there. And walking through the store, she knew that something wasn't right, so much so that she took her knife out of her purse and put it in her pocket, because she's been trained to use a knife, and she's been trained to use a gun. And those are the way this world is today. That's the way you have to think, and it's a terrible thing. We got to scare our children into staying next to us while we're in a store, so that they don't get snatched. I watched a video today, just a little while ago, where a guy jumped a fence into into a restaurant area outside patio and tried to snatch a little child, probably 3 or 4 years old. Thank goodness there were a lot of people there that didn't let him do that. He didn't get the kid, but it's a crazy world we're living in, and we've got to be aware that there are crazy people out there that do bad things. So we have to teach our children to be aware. So how do we teach our children how to be aware? We used to use a program called Stranger Danger. Now, so many people, everyone is really a stranger, but they're not treated that way anymore. It's politically incorrect to try to stay away from somebody that you don't know. And we're supposed to be kind and nice to everybody, and I want to be kind and nice to everybody, but surely want my children to have an awareness inside of them to know that they can't get away from us very far. That parents have to parent. And part of that would be keeping an eye on your children when you're walking through a store. It happens every day. Children are snatched. And so being aware of what's going on around you and teaching your children to stay next to you is a good thing. If somebody attacks you, there are some things you should know. There are soft tissue places that you should be familiar with, namely the eyes, the throat, the solar plexus in the groin, and even stomping the foot. That's anything you have to do to get away from somebody. For instance, Becky has taken some Krav Maga classes. This is my wife, Becky. I would never choke her. Maybe. No, I would never choke her because I love her. All right? But I want her to know how to get out of the choke if somebody tried to choke her. If they grabbed her, I want her to know that she could lift her arm, turn her body, and then elbow to the nose, the throat, and then I follow up with a kick to the groin. She wouldn't do that to me because she loves me too. But the simple moves are what works. It's not complex moves. It's simple moves. A punch to the throat here, a punch to the face or hand, open hand is really better. To punch somebody with your fist, if you don't know how to strike with your fist, you can hurt yourself. You have less likelihood of hurting yourself if you strike to the nose and with an open hand and hope that your fingers find the eyes. Okay? And one that really works for ladies and men, if you're in a spot and you can't get away, they've got a hold of you, you can cup your hands and slap the ears, and it will disorient somebody. It will throw their equilibrium off and they'll be able to stand you. It's really very devastating. I've seen it done before, and it was very, very devastating. And of course, fight. That's the key. You never give up. You don't. Statistics show that if you fight back, they don't want to try to fight you. They would rather find a softer target. They don't want to fight you. So fight, scream, bite, do whatever you have to do. My wife carries a Kubaton on her key ring. She's been taught how to use that Kubaton. We teach a women's self-defense class here, and she helps me teach it. It's an hour and a half long, 3 or 4 Saturdays in a row. And that Kubaton is just a small spike on the end of a keychain that if you hit a soft spot or if you hit a pressure point, it's going to get their attention. It's not going to feel good to them. They're going to back away. Like I said, they don't want to fight you. They want somebody that'll go easy. But the next thing is never get in a car. If they say, I'm not going to hurt you if you just get in the car, well, that's a lie. Okay? That you do not get in the car with them because statistics show that you are much more likely to be violently assaulted or even murdered if you get in the car with them. Fight for your life, ladies. Teach your children to fight. It's okay. Children need to know it's okay to say no to a stranger, even if they are an adult. We taught them you got to mind the adult. Well, that's not good if the adult is a bad guy. So it's okay for them to say no. We've got to teach them that. And yell, scream at the top of your lungs until somebody comes to help. And if no one comes, keep fighting. That's really the key to making it out of an attack, is to never give up, to keep fighting. We talked about the soft tissue spots, the eyes, the throat, the nose, and the groin are some of the best targets, especially if a man is intending to do something bad. You hit him enough times in the groin, he's not going to think about doing those things anymore. Are there any questions?
So far, there's not. I mean, I remember I had a situation where I was out of town and a guy kind of approached me, and I was kind of carefully trying to stay away, and I hate that Southern thing of not being rude, but it's okay to be rude.
It is okay to be rude.
I noticed he was, he wasn't in arm's reach. I noticed he was barefooted. I kind of tried to assess the situation in case it got worse, but I slowly, I gotta go, and took off and didn't let him comment, but
Right.
I always know what's going on. It's very important. But
It is.
yeah, so if anybody else has any questions, and one point I wanted to bring up is it's very important that you, like you said last time, you practice this, because when you panic, you want to be able to defend yourself if you need to, because panic, sometimes people just freeze, and that's where things go bad.
If you practice, if you train, you go to the least amount, the most simple technique that your brain can process is what you go back to. That's why the Krav Maga is such a simple system. It's based on strikes and blocks. Most of the strikes are going to be to the same area. We know we're going to strike to the nose, we're going to strike to the neck, we're going to strike to the solar plexus, we're going to strike to the groin. That's always with every single block. There's going to be a strike at the same time. If it's a block, it's going to be a strike to the groin as well. And when you practice it 1,000 times, your mind, you get muscle memory. You go right back to that. I highly recommend that all ladies take a very simple self-defense class. Something that would be Krav Maga based or something similar to it. There's lots of systems out there that have sprung up that are similar to Krav Maga. There's an instructor here in town that is a general in the Army that has a program that he designed himself that is so much like Krav Maga. It's very much like Krav Maga, and it works. It really does. He's got a great program. So absolutely, you should practice what you need to do. And when you, I've said it before, and I say it at every one of my women's classes, if you don't know anything, you won't do anything. You'll freeze. If you know something, you will do something. So learn something that will protect you.
Well, Bobby, I have a question you brought up. So is there children's self-defense classes?
Well, there are, and we teach a self-defense class here. It's a Taekwondo class, but we have self-defense techniques that we teach as well. Teaching children to kick to the groin is a tough thing to do because we don't want them to go to school and kick their classmates in the groin. We don't want them to punch them in the throat at school. But the reality is, if we don't teach them how to defend themselves, they won't do anything. It's the same thing with the women. If we don't teach our children to protect themselves, when it's time to protect themselves, they won't do anything. So I want my kids. My daughter, who is 25 now, is a third-degree black belt, and she's an edge weapon specialist. She's a combative shooter, and they pick the wrong person if they get a hold of her. But she's a big, tall, long-legged girl that will kick your head off. My son is 9 years old this month, and he's a handsome boy. And I would be beside myself if somebody did anything wrong to either of my children. So Jimmy has some basic skills to protect himself, and he knows that he can't use those skills on other children at school. I mean, there's a time in their life where they have to understand that to differentiate between a real threat and just somebody, a bully or something like that. I don't like bullies. I don't appreciate what they do to lower the morale and the self-confidence of children. So we like to bully-proof our children. We like to teach them to have self-confidence, so much so that a bully won't pick on them, because again, it goes back to being a soft target. And little Jimmy knows how to punch and kick. and he's not going to be bullied. So there are self-defense courses for children. I think it's good to start them in something that teaches self-control first and foremost, like Taekwondo. It's the tenets of Taekwondo are faith, courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, humility, and an indomitable spirit. So we want to teach them all of those things in there, and hope that they end up with the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. If that's in the Bible. Self-control is very important. God said it in the Bible. So we recite that every night, both of those. And we want our children and our students to have self-control.
Well, I also have a comment because I know you mentioned it last time, but and I know you're involved. You are a police officer, but being so close to I-30, sex trafficking is an issue. That it is very important. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Listen, Walmart is on I-30, both in Benton and Bryant, and it's not as widely talked about as it should be. It happens so much. I-30, once they get on that interstate, they're gone. You'll never see them again. Chances are, if they make it out of the county that they're abducted from, you may never see them again. If they make it across the border into Mexico, their life is horrifying for the rest of their lives. So you have to keep your eyes on your children. You have to be careful, be diligent. I gave you the children to protect them. So you have to keep your eyes open. And I know that sometimes we get in la-la land. When you're that close to the interstate, you have to pay attention. And I'm going to tell you, even anywhere in these cities that are close to a major interstate like that, a quick exit for a bad guy, it's done. So be diligent. The numbers would scare you if you knew the truth, and it's not reported widely because it's so horrifying, the thought of your child being trafficked for sex in some foreign country within 24 hours. I mean, it's just a terrifying idea. Our karate school is less than 2 miles from the Interstate 30. It could happen out here in our parking lot. And it's a scary idea. It's a scary thing. So please just be very careful and pay attention to what your kids are doing and who they're talking to and the people that are around. That's not a fun subject. It's really not. Being a father and a police officer, I see a lot of bad guys. I see a lot of good people in this county too. But I've seen a lot of bad guys and a lot of bad things that happened here that it's just quite horrifying, just to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's why it's always so important to do something, scream, fight, It is a scary world anymore. I mean, I know we're about the same age, and growing up, this may have happened every once in a while, but it wasn't as rampant as it is now.
Right. I teach our children here at the karate school that to fight and to yell. And for instance, if a stranger took you by the hand and wanted to walk you out of Walmart, then you fight and you yell and you say, "This is not my dad." Okay. And you say it as loud and as often as much as you can. Because I'm going to tell you, there are too many good people in this county that's going to let somebody walk out that door. They're not going to let them walk out the door with a kid screaming, "This is not my dad." I'm going to tell you right now, on duty, off duty, whatever. If I'm in Walmart and I see a kid screaming and a dad pulling them by the arm, and I think they're going to take them outside and whip their behind, that's probably a good thing. But if I hear them say, "That's not my dad," I'm going to say, "Wait a minute now. You're not going outside. We're going to have to call the police and see what's going on here. So I know that there are far more good people than there are bad, and people that are willing to step in and protect the children. Our county is full of people like that, but our children need to know that that's what their response should be. If they don't know to scream, "This is not my dad," and they're just throwing a fit, then how do we know it's just not a discipline problem, or is it an abduction? So teaching the children, education is key on everything, for women, for children, and even for grown men. I practice situational awareness everywhere I go. I look in the courtroom when I'm standing there beside my judge. I look across that courtroom. Right now, they're pretty empty. We only allow about 6 people in at a time. But when it was packed and we had 75 in there, I'm looking for clues that would lead to somebody doing something they shouldn't do. And it can happen right there inside of the courtroom. And it can happen anywhere. And it has happened in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. So if it can happen in a courtroom where someone has walked through a metal detector and made it inside, that it can happen in any situation. So you just always have to be aware of what's going on.
Right. I know I've been in a gas station and I've seen a guy with his hand in his pocket. I'm trying to see what he's fixing to do. Do I need to run out the other way? And 9 times out of 10, it'll be nothing, but you don't know. And you've got to always be aware of it. Like I said before, it's a scary world.
It is. Miss Becky, that's really good right there that you would be attentive to something like that in any public place, especially a place that has 2 entrances or 2 exits. Mm-hmm. Someone could grab you and be outside with you in just a split second. So being aware and figuring out what barriers you can put between a potential bad guy and yourself is really, really insightful.
Yeah, I even, sorry if I'm talking too much, but I took a class one time and he was talking about active shooter. And he said if everybody in there grabbed a chair and threw them at him and ran out, you are maybe one of you might get shot, but you're going to save a bunch of people's lives. So it's always, act. Don't just sit there.
That's right. I've been involved in some active shooter training. I'm a professional protection specialist, a licensed bodyguard. And simple things, little things that you wouldn't even think about. Our instructor, Marty Kell, he's in Fayetteville. He's the founder of the Krav Maga Association. We did one of the first active shooter training we did at a church in Russellville. And he had come out and washed his hands, and he come out with a towel, wiped his hands off, and the active shooter came into the room. Here's all of us Krav Maga instructors standing around, and Professor Kell walked up and threw a towel in his face, and then took him down and was able to disarm him. And that was just one person knowing something. If everyone in the classroom or everyone in the church knew something, had some kind of education on active shooter situations, the guy would have been beat to death. He'd have never made it any further than Professor Kell. Right. And everyone else would have joined in to help wrangle him up. Yep. And we did, before the night was over, after practicing that over and over again, that's exactly what we did. Practice, practice, practice.
Well, looks like we got about just under 5 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, please let me know. I'm not seeing any comments. So if you posted one and I didn't see it, please repost it. Well, so Bobby, how many years have you been in police enforcement?
I've been a police officer since 2007. I became a deputy at the Saline County Sheriff's Office in 2007. I went to work for the court police 8 years ago, And at that time, I worked for the sheriff's office and the court police as well. And now I'm the bailiff for our district court judge now.
Okay. Well, I am also curious, what got you started in the martial arts?
Well, I was just a kid. In 1983, I took a 1 week free class, and I was able to talk my parents into continuing. And it's a passion that I've had ever since the very first class. I have some good friends that grew up in my neighborhood that were martial artists as well. And we would get together when we weren't at the karate school or the Taekwondo school. We were somewhere doing Taekwondo in their front yard or in our front yard or up on top of the mountain, wherever. We had lots of fun. It's a different world then. But that's just one little bug, and it stuck with me. Now, before I did Taekwondo, I boxed for several years, and I enjoyed boxing, and I think the two of them together work real well together. Knowing how to generate power from your feet up through your body, out through your hands is good, and boxing really teaches that way. I started boxing because of a bully. And my dad didn't understand why I kept getting beat up. And I told him, well, Dad, I don't know how to fight. And he put me in boxing lessons.
Yeah, I think it's really important to teach kids how to defend themselves and, of course, not be the bully, but, take advantage and have self-confidence and discipline. And it is an important skill in this day and age because there are so many bullies out there.
I encountered about 3 bullies in my lifetime that pushed me to the point of having to defend myself, and was proud that I've never been kicked out of school. I had 2 fights at school. Both fights, I told the guy I didn't want to fight him, and he made me fight him, and he lost in both situations. So I wouldn't have been in trouble had I come home suspended for defending myself with my dad. And as long as the students at Karate for Christ of Arkansas don't start the fight, they won't be punished here either. We do want them to defend themselves, and only to the point that they can get away.
I know I kind of hate to talk about it too much, but I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade, and I had a really tall guy that sat behind me. He'd pull my hair. I mean, it was just constant. He was just picking on me, basically. And I nudged him one time, and he slapped me across the head, and I let him know that wasn't right. I mean, I know it wasn't very ladylike, but sometimes you have to do it. And after that, he left me alone, and I had no more problems in school the rest of my years. But it's you got to sometimes stand up for yourself, even though it's not. I mean, I was in the office, but I had to stand up for myself.
I understand completely, and that's exactly what I want. Any person that trains with us, that's what I want them to know. They have a right to stand up for themselves. The Constitution of the United States guarantees us the right to go from place to place unmolested, or no one has the right to lay hands on you or to stop you or to bother you. It's against our constitutional rights. So all the way back to the Constitution, you have a right to defend yourself. And you just have to know what degree. And if you have to punch a bully in the nose to make them understand it, then that's what you have to do.
Well, Bobby, so far, I'm not sure if the comments weren't working or what, but we didn't get any really questions, but I think it was a very informative program, and I really thank you for going over all this stuff with us and getting your perspective and knowing what you know. But thank you.
Yes,
I really appreciate it. Yes, all right.
God bless you, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.